Welcome to Envy's Donut, a podcast about everything, anything, and nothing in between.
Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode. Today I'm going to talk to you about 3 lessons I've learned from my father. First lesson, patience. Second lesson, be organized. Third lesson, always have a backup plan. So, the first one, I think I learned it from a younger age, since my father used to take me fishing with him. So, being patient is one of the most important thing when you go fishing, especially when you go fishing on a lake where it's not much happening and you just have to wait for hours sometimes without anything happening. I remember when I was young and I was just going on fishing trips with my father and sometimes other people. We used to wake up very early in the morning, at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning. Can you imagine that as a kid? I mean, other kids, I don't think they ever woke up earlier than 10, 9, 10, or 11 o'clock on the summer holidays. My father used to wake me up at 5 in the morning because he always said we needed to be there early because he always said that that's when the fish is biting at that time. So the earlier we got there, the better. And it was also a thing because usually you used to go to some lakes that were like quite far from our home. And because of that, we needed to travel there for an hour or even more than that. And obviously, when you arrive on a lake, you need all the gear prepared, even though most of the gear was already prepared and packed in their own backpacks. But you still need to unpack and set up, the chairs and the supports for the fishing rods and all the stuff. Because if the sun was up, that was it. That was you're already late if the sun was up. But then you're just sitting there, and usually at first, when I was younger, I was the my father's helper, so I used to do all the little chores, just bring the stuff from the car, do this, do that, move the stuff. Especially when my father used to tangle his fishing lines, because having multiple was better. I suppose they were doing different things. We were fishing for different types of fish, different sizes of fishes as well. So it was like, well, small hooks for little ones and then bigger hooks for bigger fish. When my father used to tangle his fishing lines, he used to hand it over to me so I can untangle them. And I like that. It was like sorting a puzzle or untangling a fishing line. It was a good exercise. Yeah, so I was waiting and waiting for hours, and then by midday, obviously no fish will bite because it was so hot outside, and we just used to just stay there, or sometimes we go to sleep in the shade somewhere under, next to the car or under a tree. Uh, in nature, it was so peaceful and so nice, and was so quiet on the lake. It was nice. In the afternoon, it was another when the sun used to dim a little bit, or if it was cooler in the afternoon, then it was another good time for fishing. So we were back at our stations and trying to catch. But I remember when I was, sometimes I was fishing in the middle of the day, and then I was just sitting there with that fishing rod, in my hand, just waiting and waiting and waiting, and just looking at the, I think it's called, I don't know if it's called a floater or something. It was like a little bit of um, stick floating on top of, on the surface of the water, and if it was moving, that meant that the fish was around and playing with the bait or taking the bait. And when the little floating stick disappeared under the water, that was the sign that the fish caught the bait, and that was the best time to pull it out of the water. Depending, I suppose it depends. It was depending on the bait as well. It was like the bread and the polenta, or it was like a worm, or if it was a worm, you have to wait a little bit longer because you used to let a little bit of worm off the hook, so it was just like teasing the fish. And then yeah, it was interesting. But sometimes I was just waiting there for hours with no movement at all. There was no wind to move the uh, that little floating stick on top of all the water. So everything was still, nothing was moving. I was just waiting there, and I was just imagining how that little thing on surface of the water will move, and I'll catch a big fish, and it was it will be so heavy to pull it out of the water. And it was the struggle, and it was awesome. But nothing was ever happening in that, on that time of the day, because it was so dead, nothing was moving, and no fish was biting, but it was still fun. So I think that taught me a lot of patience. It was nice because later on, when I was a little bit older, it was just relaxing. You just catch up with your thoughts, with your plans, with your life, and was thinking about different things, about the future, about the past. It's really relaxing, and it was good. So yeah, that taught me patience, and I was never impatient. I think I become more impatient now in the older age than I was back then. I was quite patient. And I think that those fishing trips help a lot. And yeah, it's so that was one of the first lessons, being patient. And I think that helped me a lot in life as well, because I never rushed it. I never rushed being with someone like, my wife. I was patient for a year. We became best friends, and then we ended up being together and getting married. So that helped me. I was patient with my money. I never spent them uh, without, having the need to spend them. I wasn't like, oh, I have this money, I need to spend them. I always saved some money, or put it to one side. And when I needed something, obviously I would get into my savings and get that thing I wanted. So I wasn't cheap. I'm not cheap, but I always had some money in reserve just in case. And that gets me to my second lesson that my father taught me, was always have a backup plan. So that was part of me having a backup plan, having money just in case I'm gonna need it for something I really wanted and I couldn't get the money from anywhere else. So I always had some savings. Even today, I'm still the same. I always have a backup plan. I think the only time I didn't have a backup plan, when I was trying to convince my future wife to be with me. I think that was the only time I didn't have a backup plan. So if you wouldn't have worked with her, I had nothing in reserve, but that was all right. I didn't need to have I didn't want to to have a backup plan for that. Other than that, I think I always had a backup plan. Even now with working as a locum, it's just always having more than one client, always having something else, just in case things wouldn't work with one client. I will always have another one to fall on. In life in general, I suppose, I always had different skills. I've learned different skills, even though I wasn't qualified or I didn't go to a different school to have multiple diplomas or accreditations, but I had skills that I could use. For example, having a driving license. It feels like it's a good skill to have, a good thing to have. If you need to drive, if you need to change your home, if you want to move to a different place, if another opportunity arises for work, so you need to travel, you need to go fast, and traveling, you shouldn't be depending on public transportation just in case, I don't know, you get a job in the middle of nowhere and there's no trains or no buses or taxis too expensive or whatever. And what else? Yeah, money also. It's good to have some savings and have some money reserved just in case. You never know. You might lose your job and you might be off for a few months. You always have to have something to manage to pay rent and the utilities for a few months just in case you need to find a new place to work. I'm trying to learn new skills all the time. I even went and got a second degree in graphic design and illustration, even though I don't really use it anymore and I'm not working in that field. And I suppose if you're not using your skills, you're gonna lose them. But I try to learn new things all the time and to be prepared just in case. I was trying to learn machine learning, and I registered for a course in machine learning, and I had to quit because I couldn't handle the math. I thought it's easy. I thought I could learn anything, but the math was too hard for me. And obviously, if you don't have the proper training in math, of course you can learn it, but it's a long way to go before you will be able to get through a machine learning course. So you need a lot of math before you enroll to that course. So I wasn't prepared. It was the first time when I said I I couldn't do it and I had to quit because I found out my limitations. So that was a good lesson as well. Um, Knowing when to say stop and get out and try to do something else. I have a quite funny story within this lesson of having a backup plan and being prepared always. A long time ago when I think I was in high school and I was mugged by also a kid, but you know, it was quite scary, but not so. I don't know. I was scared a bit, but I wasn't too scared because it wasn't like a grown up. It was just, I think it was another kid. I think it was the same age as me back then, but I didn't know what to expect because I never been mugged before. And this guy just asked for my money, but in the meantime, he was going through my pockets as well. And I was in high school, so I didn't have a lot of money on me or with me at any times. But anyway, but I did have something in one of my pockets. I used to wear one of those denim jackets with jeans. It was like a set. I don't know. It was back in the days. It was something everyone was wearing. It was in fashion, and my denim jacket had some inside pockets. Well, they weren't quite pockets. It was like a piece of cloth, part of the how the jacket was made. But anyway, but it wasn't stitched, so you could use it as a pocket. And because my father always taught me to be prepared, I was always stressed that I'm gonna need to go to the toilet, and I couldn't find the toilet anywhere, and I would have to go in some bushes or somewhere. But if you go with number two, then you might need something to wipe your bottom with, what I mean. So I used to have some toilet paper with me at all times. And I was having this toilet paper in my inside pocket, and this guy went through my pockets, found the toilet paper, and was like, "What's this?" Well, it's some toilet paper. Have it if you want it. So I think the guy was shocked. The guy was trying to mug me, to rob me, finding some toilet paper in my pockets. But so yeah, but I was always prepared, even with that. It was a funny encounter. I wasn't mugged since then, so I think that was a one-off. So I've been there. It's yeah. And the third lesson was be organized, and I think that was drilled in me all of my childhood by my father, because he always was annoyed by me leaving stuff around the house or having my clothes just everywhere. I didn't know where to find them. And he always, you know, repeating the same things and drilling the same things in my brain. Just put your clothes somewhere you can find them. If you take one thing from one place, put it back to the place you took it from, and all that thing. And always, all the time. I think by the time I was a teenager, I was just keep repeating the same words in my head and saying, yeah, 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 I know, I know, I know. But even if I knew all the things and I could repeat my father's words word by word, I still won't do it. I don't know. I suppose I was a kid. I suppose I was a teenager. I can't remember. It was like always the same thing. Put the clothes where so you know where to take them tomorrow. Uh, Put your stuff where they should be, on the shelf, in the drawers, whatever, and all the things. Put the things where you take them from, put them back when you finish using them, and all that. And it was over and over and over. But I think in the end it stuck with me, and then I become very organized, and I like to put things in the same place, so I always know where to find them. It's like my father used to say, if it's a blackout and you need to find a torch, you know where to go even with your eyes closed, so you know where to find it. So I suppose he was right. I mean, preparing me for when tougher times, when you might not have electric light, or who knows, it could happen. But I'm trying to teach the same thing to my kids, and I can understand why it's so difficult. My oldest one used to be very good when he was younger, but now he's like turning into younger me. He's leaving things everywhere. He doesn't know it. He's putting his pajamas, or every night he's asking me where his pajamas are, even though I told him in the morning to put them under the pillow or somewhere where he could find them tonight. It's always the same. So I suppose I'm in the same situation as my father, trying to drill in this uh, being organized thing to my kids, and it's difficult. But I'm sure they'll get it if I'll do what my father did and tell them over and over the same thing over and over until they get it. And maybe it will help them in the future. I'm positive that it was very helpful for me being organized. It's not just putting things away. It's just a way of thinking as well. way of doing things, making a list when you go shopping, or making a list when you need to remember something important, or writing in the calendar an appointment or things like that. Of course, if they are important to you and you don't want to miss them or forget them or miss the opportunities, if they're not important, yeah, don't write them down. But then don't have regrets that you missed something because you forgot about it. And it's also important with in relation to other people, to remember to be on time. And if you promised something to someone, you need to keep your promise. And these little things, they're all coming together and they're very helpful. And I suppose it's good to have them. It worked for me. I'm happy to have these skills, and it helped me with in relations to people. I think the only detrimental thing in relations to people was that I was talking too much maybe when I was younger, and I wasn't listening, and I was talking all the time. And I think it's nice and funny and for a while, but then people get bored with it, and they don't want to hear you all the time, and maybe they want to say something as well. Um, so that was the thing I had to let go, and that's still a thing that it's hard to do, but I'm trying. I'm trying to talk less and to listen more, and I think this podcast helped me with that. And I don't want to forget it. It is such a nice feeling to listen to others for a minute and to listen to their stories and their opinions, and only offer advice or your opinion when they ask for it, or if one of those awkward uh, pauses um, arises. It's like arise. It's like when nobody's saying anything. I think that was my main concern when having a conversation with someone. It's just I don't like that awkward silence. So I feel the need that I need to fill it in and just say something. And oh, I can say a lot of things, so I can talk for hours uninterrupted if you let me, or if you poke me and ask me questions or opinions from time to time. But I suppose sometimes some silence will be needed in a conversation. So I think awkward silence, it's only in my head or other people's head. Sometimes it's needed. Just be silent for a minute. It's okay. It's not a bad thing. But yeah, these are the 3 lessons I've learned from my father. I'm sure there are many, many other lessons, but you know, lessons don't come as we expect them to come. Like someone saying, "Look, son, these are the lessons in life," and started with like numbering them, saying, "Lesson number 1, be patient. Lesson number 2, be organized. Lesson number 3, always have a backup plan." No, they don't come like this. They're just, you'll learn through experience, you'll learn to life episodes. They are building bricks for your character and for your own personality. And I'm glad I've been taught these lessons because they because they help me. They help me in my life. And I'm glad that I am where I am, and I managed to achieve what I have achieved. It's been good. So if my father was still around, I would have thanked him. But I'm very happy that I managed to thank him just before he died. I think a year before that accident he had, I managed to say to him some nice things. So I told him I wouldn't be here, with all my achievements if it wasn't for him. And I think that was a good thing. And I'm happy I said it, because we take it for granted, and we think that our parents will live forever, and we think the same thing. We think that we're going to live forever. But sometimes things happen, life happens, and then life stops for some of us earlier than expected. And then you you end up with all these regrets that you didn't say the things you wanted to say. Well, I have no regrets, because I managed to say what I wanted, and I thank my father for the lessons, for his role in my life, and for basically for everything he has done for me. So I have no regrets. He knew that, and I'm happy I did it. Yeah, I hope this wasn't a very depressing episode for you. It's just some life lessons I've learned from my father, and everything's fine. Everything's awesome. Life is great, and have a nice one. See you next time. Bye.